What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm going to be doing a cool kind of a little run through today of what is happening in the crypto markets. I'm going to point out some interesting points in projects that have shifted or made some crazy progress over the last little stretch here. But really go through and just add some thoughts. Inevitably, because everyone has their favorite coins, this video is, I'm sure, going to make some people excited about some coins and some people mad about others. No offense if I say something that's not popular or supportive about a particular coin, just trying to relay stuff the way that I see it. So let's get into it. So we have Bitcoin, which was sitting above 10K for some time, or for at least a few days there. Now is like just below it at about 97, 9800. To be expected to some extent, right? The markets generally seem to just be getting a lot more intelligent to where you're not having like the most insane run-ups on projects that you used to have per se, without people taking profits off the table and then some sort of retracement, right? So, which is probably a good thing, right? Obviously, and you guys will see here in a minute, I'm going to point out a few projects that have had some ludicrous gains in a very short amount of time. But they're few and far between now. Whereas before it was kind of commonplace, right? You can almost just kind of roll dice at the top 100, and one of those was going to hit 70-80% gains during a certain time period. And it was just bananas, right? And I think people got used to that being sort of the norm as what's possible, but really don't want that to be the norm. It's just too boom and busty, and too many people get wrecked in that time. And the chances of you being one of those when you're trying to actively trade is pretty high at that time, right? Risk and reward. I see so many people lately talking about Ethereum's going to hit 10K, and I find it really interesting. I mean, Ethereum obviously has such a loyal community, and it seems like a lot of VCs and entities with big money outside of the space are still eyeing Ethereum as as something that's going to have that's going to reach a lot more higher highs, let's say, than where it's at now. And in some respects, right? I mean, Ethereum, just like Bitcoin, and a couple other projects, have really become what looks like almost sort of go-to money for people in the space. And it's natural that Ethereum's had that because it was used as the primary money to invest in so many of these ERC20 tokens that are fluttered throughout the top 100. But there's still so much to be seen, right? With Ethereum 2.0, there's so many question marks. It's been such a long time for it to come out. Where are the fees going to be at after that? How is the proof of stake going to work on Ethereum relative to how delegated proof of stake works on EOS? There's so many questions that are needing to be answered, and there's also so many projects that are holding a tremendous amount of cash on hand that have got to be willing to want to part ways with that cash, because they had such a large amount of their raise when the ETH was much closer to $1,000, and now that it's much lower. If they didn't sell, whatever they raised, let's say it was 10 million, now it's down to like 1 or 2. You got to imagine that a lot of those projects probably have some striking point, $400, $500, $600 Ethereum, where they're like, dude, what are we gonna do? Gamble again and hope it goes up to 1,000 or more? Let's just cut and sell our losses. So there may be some more sell pressure coming, down the pipeline for Ethereum. With Ripple, nonetheless, I'm gonna do a broader video on Ripple, but I just don't see how the banks transfer power over, and how they're really providing such a primary service that it deserves to be where it's at, that banks are going to now hand power over to some guy named Brad, you know what I mean, instead of like the good old boys club. I just don't see how their value prop works in the long run, but could be wrong. So if you're a Ripple fan watching this, don't be mad. With Bitcoin Cash, similar thing, right? A lot of people are talking about it may come up in fork again recently, or soon. It may fork soon. Not recently, but that would imply that it happened already. But that it may fork again in the near future. And if it does, what does that mean for it, right? Does that split the community again? Who knows? I do hold some, so I'm obviously a bit biased there, as well as I hold Bitcoin and a couple other things here. And I should probably just let you guys know probably everything that I do hold prior to sort of discussing it on here. It would be, I think, fair and transparent and helpful. But yeah, nonetheless, interesting and something to watch. They are making some waves with adoption with merchants in Asia, which is pretty interesting. Bitcoin SV. Tough. You just got like the Bash Bros, right, with Bitcoin SV and Litecoin. I mean, at least Litecoin's somewhat of an OG coin to some extent, but it's like how it has almost a $5 billion market cap is beyond me, guys. I don't know, and it absolutely just blows my mind, to be honest with you guys. Excuse me if I'm a bit stuffed up here. I was sick a couple days ago. Just got caught up in the rain. But yeah, I mean, there's just like not new developments, not really a lot of progress happening with Litecoin yet. It continues to pump. I think it's just because it's listed as an option on most of these, primary fiat on and off ramps, and it's like the cheaper Bitcoin, and a lot of people made maybe some money on it prior and are like, bro, Litecoin at 10K, bro, 73. You know how much that is, dude? That's a lot of multiples, and I don't think people quite understand a lot of these things. But nonetheless, I mean, it still continues to hang around, which is interesting. So you have EOS, which made a nice sort of run up leading to the launch of Voice, which I'm going to be covering here on the channel soon. Just waiting for the beta invite to come through. But yeah, I mean, EOS still continues to chug along, which is quite interesting. Let's see what else we got here. Okay, Binance Coin. I mean, obviously, so I just did a different video about Binance Coin. Depending on when you're watching this video, you may have seen it before or after about their cloud computing service. But again, Binance Coin. I mean, I think Binance Coin has so many fundamentals. It's one of the only coins up here that supply is shrinking while everything else is inflating and increasing, and so that's something to note just on its own. As well as they're a company that actually makes a legitimate amount of revenue every day, which is really, really interesting. And that's, baked into their tokenomics to some extent. So I hold Binance Coin. I like Binance Coin. I think it's got a very bright future, I'll say that. With Tezos, again, like, it just continues to pump so hard on these days when everything else does like okay. It just pumps harder. And it's like, with no news, major news of like apps on it or major companies using it, all these things, it's just so hard to understand, why and where all the excitement is coming from. And it leads, I think, one to believe that, maybe there's some manipulation going on. Maybe there are people who hold quite a bit using their past bags to rebuy because there's thin, maybe there's thin amount of hands selling Tezos on the market, and so it's somewhat manipulatable. But it's interesting. Like, look at today. Like, it's up 13% when everything else is like sub 10 or near zero. This doesn't make a lot of sense. Doesn't make a lot of sense. Cardano, nonetheless, yeah, we're gonna have to see some major moves coming from Cardano to. We're gonna have to see it live and in action, right, to kind of know where and what's gonna happen with it. Chainlink, I do hold some Chainlink as well. Obviously, Chainlink has what seems like the biggest hype army in quite some time behind it, which is really interesting to see. But, I mean, all intents and purposes, not investment advice. It seems like Chainlink, like a couple of the other coins I mentioned, will probably continue in a particular direction because of people seeming to want to integrate and utilize the tech, as well as just a growing community of supporters behind it, which is interesting. It's very, none of these things are always the same way kind of all the time, but you kind of want to try to keep an eye on where hype and momentum is accruing, because oftentimes dollars will flow and follow that, and we know what happens when that happens. So I'm not going to continue and go through like the top 100. Obviously, it's kind of interesting. Tron bought Steam it the other day, so a lot of people are wondering, like, what does that mean for Steam as a token? What does that mean for Tron? How are they going to change it and utilize it? I saw somebody's interesting tweet, which was like, that like they want to buy it because they can move some influencers over who really rely on like bots and fake accounts, and like they can still kind of move there and maintain that. I don't know. I mean, obviously there's just crypto's like politics now. If you're not in our community, you're just it's us versus them, and everyone's the worst if they don't hold what you hold. But nonetheless, we'll see how it all shakes out. Wax cracked into the top 100, which is really interesting, on the news of some of these hints that they had been putting out. Where is it? 85 right here. So yeah, you see. Okay, so see, now Wax is $67 million market cap, 6.5 cents. A lot more volume, picking up over $8 million in volume. Because Wax had put out some announcements of, it looked like sort of a Mickey Mouse hint, or like an Iron Man hint, and a lot of people think it may be Topps baseball card, or Topps cards, excuse me. and because they have licensing rights to a lot of these really big brands from Disney and Marvel and all these things, nonetheless, whether it's Disney specifically or Topps, that becomes the sort of partner of Wax. I think it's really big because Wax's primary play, is the NFTs, is the digital items, and when you partner with a company who has exclusive rights to, some of the most iconic and influential digital items, that means that's where the quality stuff's going to be at. And if you're somebody who thinks that space has value in it, and that's something people will continue to do more now than they did in the past, which is the trading and ownership of digital items, digital goods. Interesting partnership, and we may see some more value accrue there. One of the other things I was going to highlight here on the channel, which was so insane and how much this has moved, was Hashgraph. So interesting, guys, how some of these blockchains that sort of have a lot of heavy like VC funding, how their markets are able to shift and move with some buying volume coming in. And it makes you wonder where that buying volume comes from all the time on any of these projects. So, shoot, why did I go to market pairs? Hold on. Check this out. And I'm going to wrap this video up pretty soon, guys. I've been dragging it on here for a little bit. And we're going to the Hashgraph white paper. Nice. Okay. So, basically what I was just going to show you guys with Hashgraph there at the end was that it went up like, I think 6x or so, 5 or 6x in like the last few weeks. So, wanted to let you guys know, if you don't know already, it seems like alt season is continuing to roll. Obviously, keep an eye on Bitcoin's dominance with its relevance to the rest of the markets, and how much the market cap holds there versus the rest of all these sort of alts combined. But it seems like things are really heating up. But like I said, it seems like this run up and everything's going to be a lot different than last time. Keep an eye out. It does seem like, not investment advice, but people are much more keen to take their profits when they're double-digit percentages and let the markets drop and then rebuy again, which is sort of just a sign of a much more, I guess, healthier market, but it's just more mature, right? It's just more mature money that's in the markets now, and it seems like this is sort of going to be the way that things are going to shake out. So if you guys like this update on the crypto markets and you want more videos like this, hit the like button. Comment below your favorite project that you want to see covered here on the channel, and I'll do my best to share some interesting info about it and any other topic that you guys want to talk about here on the channel. And I'll see you guys next time. Thanks.